All right, welcome to episode 10 of the At Bat Baseball Podcast presented by War Media, where we give you our thoughts on the latest Chicago baseball news, as well as take a trip around the league. I am Saul Rodriguez, along with Miles Porter. How was your week, man?
Good week, good weekend. Uh, you know, another another amazing week of baseball. There's a lot of cool things going on.
Oh, yeah, and just a lot of, controversy and crazy,
Yeah,
things like the Mets, but we'll get into that. And then, yeah, usually we start off the show now, ever since last week with a little bit of Miles Corner for the Milwaukee Jaguars, but he did not play this week. I think I follow you guys on Instagram. I think I saw you guys play like Wednesday night or something like that.
yeah, yep. We play
Yeah,
Wednesday night.
Wednesday night baseball. Is that common? Do you guys play a lot of night games, or is it mostly like weekend day games?
Yeah, the further we get into the summer season, there's gonna be more
Uh-huh.
week games. So yeah, it's pretty common now. Not too common in the beginning. So we're
Oh,
gonna have
okay.
quite a few of those. So look
Cool,
forward
cool,
to it.
cool. Bet. All right. Well, we're gonna start this week by mentioning. Oh yeah, it's like we were talking about it before the show. It is crazy, but it's our 10th episode, our first milestone episode. But yeah, no, yeah, episode 10. Um, it's hopefully we do 1,000 more. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes,
so it's
sir.
it's 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 a nice little milestone. To have.
Yeah,
That's crazy. I never thought I'd do a podcast in these last few years. And we always talk about it off show. I'm like, um, didn't know I had it in me, and then I watched. I was like, you know what? Let's get this going this year. Let's do it. And when War Media contacted me, I was like, perfect timing. So, yeah, no, yeah.
yeah.
Hopefully, to many more, bro. So, this week we're gonna start off with the White Sox. They played the Blue Jays last week and the Rays over the weekend. The White Sox are 25 and 27. They are now actually, as I look at the standings, third in the AL Central, which is kind of gross. For if you're a White Sox fan watching this, because
Yeah.
the White Sox haven't been, to be honest, haven't been playing terribly. They were swept in that series against the Jays, but they actually got a big win over the weekend against the Rays, 2 out of 3. But they haven't, compared to how they were playing, earlier in the season. They're hitting better. Their bullpen's looking a little better, but they're pretty stagnant, staying second and third behind the Twins, who still have a 4.5 game lead on the second place Guardians. But yeah, that Jays series, I mean, they were just dominated by a team that's just better. Like, the Jays right now are getting hot, their bats are getting hot,
Yep.
they're pitching. Like, honestly, going into the season, man, like, I thought like the Jays were a team that kind of needed like another guy. They needed like another pitcher. But now, looking
Yeah.
like after this, dude, Manoah is so nasty,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you could make an argument that he could be like their game one starter for a playoff series. Like, Gosman obviously is like their ace coming into the season, but man,
Yep.
he is really good. And then also in that series, I mean, they also got Alexander Kirk, or sorry, Alejandro Kirk, because that the catcher for the Blue Jays, Alejandro Kirk, that guy's a beast. He's hitting right now,
Yeah.
like, just raking, and yeah, he was able to hit some bombs off the Sox. But in that J series, what did you see? What surprise did you see, or what do you think about the Jays so far, and how they were able to beat the White Sox in this series so easily?
Yeah, I think the in terms of just watching the Jays, the Blue Jays in general, I don't think they're a team that scores a lot of runs. I don't think they're a team that really drives in a lot of runs, but they had a lot of timely hits. And obviously when you're playing in Toronto, that's a very loud and to a certain extent hostile crowd. I just think they have all the momentum. That's really it. And like I said in the beginning of the year, when it comes to the Blue Jays, this is a team that has no reason to not be up there with the Yankees. And they're proving that to us right now. I think this is a very young team, a very talented team that's starting to come into their own. And they're playing with a lot of that young energy, a lot of that young momentum right now. And the Sox were our team, pretty much up to this entire season. We're in June now. They are still trying to figure it out. And the Blue Jays haven't figured out. The Blue Jays are very motivated and they are not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, no, and the thing is, like, I thought for sure the Rays are gonna capture that second spot in the East, and they still could, obviously. But
Yeah.
I mean, just looking at when you compare both teams, Blue Jays pitching is just better right now. The starting pitching, particularly in the lineup, the Blue
Yep.
Jays lineup. The Rays obviously have some injuries. They don't have Wander,
Mhm.
but and Brandon Lau. But yeah, so
Right.
yeah, just seeing the Blue Jays, yeah, just two different teams right now. It's where the White Sox want to be and where they can be when healthy. But it just didn't show up, and they weren't able to keep up. And the thing is, the first two games of that series too, like
Yep.
the Sox, those were two winnable games. The games were close, but the Jays were just able to separate themselves. Um, but I will say this too: a guy that's looking better at the plate overall has been Jake Berger, who's
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
more consistent at the plate. And over the last 7 games, he's slugging 630. He's just hitting the ball hard in general. And then he's in the. I also checked it too. He's in the 96th percentile for max exit velocity. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like
Hitting the ball
he's
hard.
he's looking good. And the thing is too, I think I just saw an article too where like he's getting comfortable playing second base, which I think would be huge for the Sox because once everyone's healthy, once everyone's back, if Berger can stay in the lineup and be on second base, because that's been a hole for the Sox. Like Larry Garcia, Josh Harrison obviously haven't been doing much offensively. So if they can get Berger to be there and be a pretty solid second baseman, I think that'd be huge for them. But yeah, so they played the Rays over the weekend also, and that was a big series. When I saw them, get swept by the Jays, I was like, they're probably gonna go into Tampa and also get swept or lose 2 out of 3. And they were able to, have a couple gutsy performances, including a Jake Berger go ahead home run late in the game in game two. They were able to win the series. 2 games out of 3. What did you see from that series, and what are your thoughts on the Rays as a whole?
Yeah. So, you know, I truly believe that no matter how low the payroll of this team is, they are going to be good every single season. Um, Something about the tradition of how this team performs is just it's so consistent and it's fun to watch. Here's what I look at when I'm looking at the Rays as a whole. This is a team that has a lot of very good timely hitting. I love Randy Rosarena. I think he brings so much spark, and he's an incredible offensive threat. Kevin Kiermaier has never been an offensive threat like that, but defensively, obviously, his presence is known around the entire league. I think about Brandon Lowe, also another player that's not really an offensive threat. So their timely hitting is incredible. Looking at Wander Franco, I think he's starting to come into his own this year as well. Looking at all these stats right now as I'm talking, Yandy Diaz, another player who I think is kind of underappreciated and is starting to come into his own as well. Manuel Margot, another player that I could list off. I think this is a team that obviously does not hit for high average, but that's okay, especially in this time, this age of baseball. And when they do have their chances, usually they capitalize on. So pretty pretty similar to the Blue Jays, but this team is very. I think they're a very solid team. So I think the Rays are just another team who is just they've been there before, they've done it before, so they know exactly what they're doing every single series, especially against a team like the White Sox. They know how to dominate them. They know how to neutralize any energy they have and continue building on their own.
No, yeah, and what's interesting too is I was looking at I think it was Bleach Report put out a their All Stars as of right now after 2 months, and yeah, dude, Manuel Margot is killing it right now. Like I was looking at his stats, I was like, damn, like here's a guy that they got from the Padres. I believe it was in a trade or they signed him. I'm not 100% sure on that, but uh, when I was talking to the Padres, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a pretty good role player. He's speedy, a guy kind of come off the bench, whatever in the late game. But this dude's like starting for them and killing it. So it's good. I like those stories, and I mean that's the thing. Like I know there's a lot of negatives we could pull out from teams like the Rays, where like when dating back to like Kevin Cash pulling Blake Snell in the World Series and stuff like that. But it's cool to see when guys like that are able to go to a team like that, give them a chance, work some science or whatever they do over there, and yeah, and just be successful. But yeah, the White Sox were able to pull out that series win. That was good to see. Overall, in that road trip, they had great performances again from guys like Andrew Vaughn, who I think you can make an argument has been like their MVP man because I mean that guy's just been hitting, and he's been hitting 350 in his last 15 games in particular. But also, it's good to see the White Sox bullpen kind of, just improve compared to what they used to be at the beginning of the season. That was, I think, one of their worst spots. I think when they were at their lowest, besides their hitting. They were having bad performances from Liam Hendricks, who has now gone out there and had 8 straight scoreless appearances,
Yeah,
looking more like himself. Aaron Bummer, 7 scoreless appearances since returning from the IL. So I mean that's huge for them because look, at the end of the day, they have those 3 guys at the end of the game. They have Hendricks, they have uh, Kendall Graveman, and they have a guy like Matt Foster who's starting to be like their 7th guy or 6th inning guy, but another guy they could depend on. But yeah, when you have guys like Aaron Bummer who can also we've seen what he's done in the past. If we can even be half that, that would be huge for the Sox. So for them to look a little more like themselves, I think is
yeah.
big. So hopefully that stays.
I think with what I've always noticed with Bummer is that he's a very lengthy left-handed pitcher. I think it's just kind of fighting that urge to kind of dance around hitters a bit. I think he has really good stuff, and even when you look at his ERA, it's still a very solid ERA. He's still pitching very well this year. But sometimes there is a little bit of let me pitch around this guy, let me dance around the zone a bit. That does lead to walks. Guys are patient. They are recognizing if there's a ball that's low, if there's something that's too far in, or if he leaves something up. A lot of players are recognizing that just because of the way his arm slot is with his windup. So I think just with Baum, I think it's just attack the hitters. Don't be afraid to attack the hitters. I know sometimes the defense has been a little bit shaky. That does go into certain pitchers' minds when they are trying to pitch carefully. They don't always want that ball to get put in play because sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. But uh, you know, even though I think in general, though the Sox had a great last series with the Rays, I think there's still some dancing around that he's doing right now. And I think for him, if I was his pitching coach, I would tell him just attack hitters more. That's all it is.
No, yeah, and I think also another thing in general, um, with Sox pitchers, I mean, we know they have a good coaching staff, a good well-rounded staff when it comes to the pitching, especially when you got guys like Giolito, Kopech, and stuff like that are just able to put
Yeah,
things together. So yeah, I think whenever guys are struggling, I think they're able to find it, and we've seen that so far, at least in the last month or so. A couple updates on the Sox injuries. Lance Lynn, who has yet to pitch for the Sox in 2022, he'll make another rehab start with the AAA Charlotte Knights. He'll make a total of 3 before returning to the South Side later this month. And then Eloy Jimenez is working his way back from a lower body injury in Charlotte, but before being activated, he will come back. Or actually, correct, I read that wrong. He's coming back from a hamstring injury, and he's getting his lower body strength back in Charlotte. But yeah, he was supposed to come back. I think sooner than 6 to 8 weeks, but he looks like he's going to come back within that 6 to 8 weeks, because he got injured on April 23rd. So I guess that's good. I mean, I always stuck to my idea that he should play it safe because he's such an important part of that team.
yeah,
Um, that for a Sox team that as much as obviously they need him, right, but they're still on the bubble to the point where like they can survive without him for now, and then
yeah.
he'll come back and do his thing. Um, but yeah, looking ahead, it's going to be a big week for the Sox at home. They got 3 games against arguably the best team in baseball, really between them and the
Mhm.
Yankees. They got the Dodgers, and then they got 3 against the Rangers. Between those 2 series, what are you looking at between with the Dodgers and the Rangers?
I think it's going to be a tough series against the Dodgers. Now they're playing at home, right?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. So they think the Sox do have that going for them, but the Dodgers very, very, very dangerous team. So they're going to come here looking to do a lot of damage. When I look at the Texas Rangers, that is a very, very winnable series, but they are a pretty pesky team at times. So the Sox are, as much as they've been struggling this year, this is still a team that is more than capable of hanging in there with the best. We saw that in the last game against the Yankees as well in New York. So this is a team that I don't see a reason why the Sox don't pull out at least 2 wins. But I do believe the Dodgers are going to come here and dominate pretty with a lot of authority. The Rangers come into town. very winnable series for the White Sox. The Rangers are, I don't think, a terrible team, but they're also a team that is still building off of a few pieces that they have. So, uh, expect anything with that Dodgers series, but we should be able to dominate the Rangers when they come to town.
Yeah, and I think with the Rangers too, which I mean, looking at them in the standings, I mean, 25 and 28, did not expect that at least at this point of the season, a
Yeah.
+9 run differential. But yeah, no, they're still a team way far from competing. But yeah, no, it's one of those teams that where they have the guys in the team that are able to win games on their own, like Seager
Yeah.
and Simeon when he's on. Obviously, he's had a tough season up to this point. But yeah, no, I think the Sox should be able to compete with the Dodgers, but ultimately, yeah, lose 2 out of 3. And then against the Rangers, I think they could easily be a sweep, or they just win 2 out of 3
Yeah.
against them. So I think if you win one against the Dodgers, I know you're at home, so you're hoping to win more. But even
Mhm.
if you win one against the Dodgers, I think it'd be good, especially with the way in the state of your team, the White Sox are in. Um, but yeah. Okay, so moving on now to the Cubs. They had a huge week at home at Wrigley. They had 4 games set against the Brewers and a 5 game series against the Cardinals. They had 2 doubleheaders over the week. So they had one against the Brewers on Monday and then one against the Cardinals on Saturday. And to be honest, I mean, I feel like they held their own for as much as they can. They won 2 games out of 4 against the Brewers, and then they won 2 out of 5 against the Cardinals. When I look at that homestand and I look at those, those are the 2 best teams in the Central. Honestly, I look at that, I look at those 2 series and look at the Cardinals and the Brewers, and honestly, I'm not that impressed when it comes to the Brewers and Cardinals. Like they're the class of the Central, but at the end of the day, like how good are they, right? And I don't know. I
Yeah.
I think the Brewers have, as much as their pitching is good and their hitting is we've always talked about can be a little bit inconsistent. I don't know. The Cardinals are looking like they could be better, especially with Jack Flaherty coming back. The Cardinals could easily take. I mean, they're a game out of the Central right now. If you're telling me the Cardinals can win the Central, like I'd believe you. Just because of the state of their team. They have a lot of young guys that are coming up. But overall, man, I mean, when you look at these 2 teams, and I look at the rest of the NL with teams like the Mets, the Dodgers, the Padres, like I don't necessarily know how the Brewers and Cardinals from all aspects can compete. I mean, the Brewers, as much as they have got nasty guys from the pen. Honest, like Williams. I know he's come back from injury. At least last year had a tough injury. Um, it just doesn't look the same as he has been. I mean, he's got great stuff, but as unhittable compared to how he was before, not really. Um, and I always think like Josh Hader in a 7 game series is not as scary as Josh Hader facing him every day. But yeah, I don't know. Like, what are your like quick takeaways from the Brewers and the Cardinals and just seeing those 2 teams, top 2 teams from the Central?
Yeah, I've always said with the Brewers that I think that they are as dominant as they are because they do play in the Central, which right now isn't the most competitive division. But it's I do try to give them some credit as they do. They are a team that has timely hitting. The pitching, in my opinion, I don't think is incredible. But to dominate in a division where you are expected to dominate, they are doing that and they have that going for them. This is what you expect from them. Um, and when I'm looking at that series, I think these are 2 teams that play each other so much that eventually you start to have someone else's number a bit. So obviously, the Cubs and Brewers are very, very familiar with each other. No matter how good the Brewers are doing, the Cubs have just as much of a chance to, take 2 from them or win a series against them as it feels the other way around. This is a team that the Cubs are not scared of, and the Cubs, I think, also recognize that the Brewers are as successful as they are because, I'm going back to playing in the NL Central. So the Cubs do recognize that, and especially when you come to Wrigley, it's day and night. You have some of the most supportive fans in the world, so you're playing with so much enthusiasm throughout each game. Um, and with the Cardinals, I think it's very similar, but I think the Cardinals are actually a way better hitting team than the Brewers. Offensively, this team is very scary. You look at the season that Goldschmidt is having, the season that Arenado is having, and then Brendan Donovan, who's broke out this year. It's just this is a team that really knows how to hit. They don't have bad pitching, but I think their pitching in general isn't elite, and I think that is the main thing that is kind of keeping them behind the Brewers a little bit. But I truly believe if the Cardinals find some sort of way to bolster their rotation and bolster their bullpen a little bit more, I I don't think the Brewers are better than the Cardinals. I just don't. I do, because then the Cardinals are a more full team. They can hit and they can pitch better. Defensively, I think this is a great team as well. Um, I saw Nolan Arenado make an error at third base when I was at the Cubs game yesterday. That's the second time I've seen him play in person, and I've seen him make an error both times. The first time was when he was on the Rockies, but I is aside from that point, this team is so well put together. And I think it's just a matter of, you know, trying to become a more full team, and the Cardinals have more than enough movable pieces to kind of enhance that, because this is a team, in my opinion, that should not be in second place behind the Brewers. They're just better.
Yeah, and when you break down like the series in general, and the thing is with the Brewers, and you're right, they do have timely hitting, and that's key in the playoffs. I mean, we've seen
Yeah.
it, succeed in the playoffs before, like 2018.
Mhm.
Like so that's it doesn't matter at the end of the day the numbers that you have, the OPS that you have in the October. If you can get clutch hits, I mean, you can win the World Series. I mean,
Yep.
but yeah, with the Brewers, it's like, yeah, you're right, and it's like they are a lot of their success stems from the fact that they play in the NL Central,
Yep.
and we talked about it too. Also, I think it was last week or a couple weeks ago, there was a stat where it was like you take out the Cubs, the Reds, and the Pirates, um, and you look at teams weighted runs created plus, and the Brewers are last. So I think
Yeah.
that's so telling, like
Yep.
that in itself. Like I
Mhm.
still like I was surprised seeing that, and like even to this, like right now, like just thinking about it is crazy to think about, but it's really just
Yeah.
that the proof is in the pudding type of thing. um but yeah, it was nice. And yeah, the thing too is like, as you said, they see each other more, a little more familiar. And the Cubs are 5-5 against the Brewers this year, which is nice because of the fact that the Brewers are in first place. So it's I think it's good for the Cubs' confidence and stuff like that to have a record like that against the top team in your division. And then also with that Cardinal series, Cubs could have easily won that series, and they could have easily won Sunday Night Baseball.
Yeah.
Going into extra innings, they blew that. They were up 3-2, and they gave
Yeah.
up a run, and eventually ended up losing 5-3. But yeah, no, that Cardinals team, they just have that like, I don't know, this the classic Cardinal way thing going this year,
Yeah.
where it's like any guy comes up, any guy like could come up and be the hero that day. And
Yeah.
Nolan Gorman, like those type of guys.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised at all. But yeah, a couple positive takeaways for the Cubs also was just the fact that Frank the Tank continues to hit, man. Ever since he was sent down, came back after a day, and
Bobby Swish.
yeah, no, man, yeah, he's in his last 15 games, he's got an OPS of 1.011, and he's
Yeah.
slugging .645. So he's killing it. Him and Wisdom have been doing their thing. So um, if the Cubs decide not to get rid of Wisdom, for example, which I said last week, probably going to happen. It might be one of those things like sneaky trades. Really between him, Hap, and Contreras that are probably going to leave. Um, but yeah, it'll be cool to have like Frank and Patrick in the lineup just every day. Those guys are just fun to watch. They're
Yeah.
so yeah, and then also Caleb Killian made his debut for the Cubs. He's the number 5 prospect and their top pitching prospect.
Yeah.
And I mean, dude, when I tell you like it's just positive to see something from the Cubs side. Guys like Chris Morel as well, just like killing it. Like, seeing that for a Cubs season, like that's unraveling right now, and probably
Mhm.
gonna lose 90 to 100 games or whatever it is.
Yep.
Um, yeah, it's cool. It's cool to see guys like that come up and do their thing. Killian, in his debut, 5 innings, 3 earned runs, 3 hits, 6 Ks. His stuff looks pretty nasty though. I mean, he K'd like
Yeah.
two in the first inning. He's got good like breaking stuff. His sliders nasty. So Hopefully we'll be able to see him soon. They optioned him on Sunday, so hopefully we're able to see him either later this season or starting 2023 for sure.
Yeah.
Because he's 25 years old, so he definitely I think he's ready for the big leagues sooner rather than later. Um, Justin Steele had a great outing on Sunday. He's been looking good. I think it was really just that 7 run outing in Cincinnati that kind of killed his ERA and
Yeah.
kind of if you look at his numbers, you're like, eek. But it's really just that main start over the last month that's looked tough. But he on Sunday went 7 innings of 1 run ball, only struck out one. I think the Cardinals were really just playing for contact there, and the Cubs got away with it. So that was good to see. And also, I actually saw an article with Justin Steele saying that he's gotten advice from John Lester.
John Lester.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
if you want to get advice from any lefty, you want to get it from John Lester. So
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously that helped out in some capacity. Oh, and I'll ask you first about Killian and his performance over the weekend. What did you see about from the young guy?
No, I think he pitched pretty well. I think those first few innings were pretty solid. That one inning got away from him a bit. Right around the yeah, it was in the fourth inning. I think a lot of the runs that were given up in that inning, were just young mistakes. The ball that Brendan Donovan hit, I think that was actually a really good pitch. Donovan went down there and got it, which is a great sign because I think that some of the pitch sequences that he was using were actually very good. But definitely ways to improve on it a bit. I like that he wasn't really leaving the ball over the plate. I just think in that one inning he got a little bit rattled. And, that's really the moral of the story when it comes to a lot of these young guys that come up to the big show. And it's just learning experience that I thought was a very good mature start, very solid for a first start, and so much to look forward to when it comes to that.
Yeah, and I think with young guys like that, I think anytime I see a guy, for example, making his first career start or just in general making his first start, it's all about the second time around the order. And I think that the Cardinals were a little flustered at the beginning. Like I think
Yeah.
just like they were a little shocked seeing his stuff, and I think the second time around, guys like Goldschmidt, Arenado, they kind of knew what they were expecting, knew what they were
Yeah.
expecting. Yeah, it was just a little more of the way they adapted. I think that played well for them later on in the game. But yeah, great first start for him. And yeah, like I said, hope to see him sooner rather than later. Because he's a guy that definitely could be one of the top guys in the Cubs rotation in the future. And when we've talked about it before, man, I mean, you look at guys like the guys that we have now. I think nobody really gives the Cubs a lot of credit. But the fact that they have guys like Steele and guys like Keegan Thompson,
Yeah.
even Swarmer, man, that came up on over the weekend. Just guys like that in the pipeline that regardless of their age, not they're not 20-year-olds, but they're guys that were developed by the Cubs. I think it's good to see, and hopefully that's something that will help the Cubs in the future. Be more of a pitcher first type team. Because that'd be pretty interesting, and I think to what it looks like, they're gonna lean on pitching from the pipeline and kind of like maybe sign guys. Like I know I saw an article from I think it was Bob Nightingale saying that the Cubs are gonna maybe sign one of the top shortstops in the offseason. Like Trey Turner. So who knows? It'll be interesting. I know. Also, I mean, what would be nice, and this is a conversation for another day, but I mean, Aaron Judge is going to be a free agent too. So that's something to think about too. Whoever, signs
Yeah.
him, is going to have a
Yeah.
cornerstone for years to come. So, yeah, on the injury side, I did see in the last week, that Brendan Davis, underwent successful back surgery, which is just, um, unlucky for him.
Yeah.
He did have a lackluster start to 2022. He had an
Yeah.
OPS of 585, and it was just hitting 195. Maybe that played into it. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it sucks because I kind of expected Davis to be up this year, later this year, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen anymore. But hopefully gets a good shot in spring training next year, and he'll be able to start start the season next year with us in 2023.
Yeah.
Uh, Albert Alzolay, who's recovering from a shoulder injury, he resumed light throwing on Friday, and barring any setbacks, Seiya Suzuki should return this week, which would be cool to see
Yeah.
because talking about the series that are going to happen this week, we're recording this on Tuesday. The Cubs play 2 games in Baltimore, so they'll be able to face that whatever you want to call it, maybe their version of the Green Monster in left field. And then they'll travel to New York for 3 games. So hopefully the Cubs have Suzuki back for that series in New York, because that'll be cool to see, showcase him in New York and stuff like that. But yeah, no, to start off in Baltimore, I think that's one of those teams that, how you were talking about the Rangers, how they're a little pesky and a lot better than people thought they would be this year. Honestly, I
Yeah.
mean, they compete with everyone in that division. And like I said before, I have a buddy that's a Yankees fan, and he just hates the Orioles because they just play the Yankees tough every game. Like it's like a
Yeah.
playoff game. You watch an
Yeah.
Orioles Yankees game, and it's legit like a playoff game. But the Yankees have been able to deal with them, well this year, as they've been doing with everyone. But yeah, what do you think with these 2 upcoming series? I think they're pretty exciting series, honestly, for the Cubs side of things, just because it's 2 teams you don't see that much. I know next year with the whole revamped schedule, we'll be able to see these teams every year now. But yeah, what do you think the Cubs are gonna see when it comes to the Orioles and the Yankees this week?
Yeah. The Orioles they're a very similar team to us with a very, very similar record. Um, but I don't think that they are the same team. I really like Keegan Thompson starting game one. I think he's going to dominate. Um, because these teams don't play each other a lot, I am very confident that the Cubs are going to have a lot of success going into the series. Um, I think it's a lot of just go out there and dominate the way that you can. I'm looking at Kyle Bradish or Bradish. I always pronounce it wrong every time.
Oh yeah, I'm not 100% sure on him.
Okay, so 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 I'm gonna say Bradish for now. If I got it wrong, please correct me. Um,
Got you.
he's another pitcher that's still really trying to find his way in the MLB. He's gotten a lot of starts. I've kind of kept an eye on him throughout the season. 6.82 ERA. He's K35 though. Keegan Thompson's K38. So I think that there's a you know a good chance that the Orioles do compete with us. But with Thompson on the mound and the success that he's having, and he just goes out there and he's just so confident. He's just so he he has that swag on the mound. Now I don't see a reason why the Cubs don't win this game. Offensively, there's no one really on this team that stands out to me. I think there's still a lot of development, obviously, with Adley Rutschman. I think Trey Mancini is very talented. It's I've always liked Robertson Trinos, but he's in the leadoff spot. But in my opinion, he's not a leadoff hitter. Kind of shows where the Orioles are at in terms of their offensive side. So I think there is an interesting dynamic that that we can see throughout this series with two very similar teams. I'm not saying Trinos is going to lead off. I'm just not. It's just I think that there's so many different ways that this lineup is built for the Orioles that they are still trying to figure out how to keep a competitive edge when they're not playing a team that is within their division. So I think I think the Cubs are going to have great success. And it's just a matter of hey, try to just try to put the ball in play, just drive the ball to the gap. It's going to be very hard to be putting the ball over the wall with what they have their version of the Green Monster, but I call it the Green Extension. So so it'll be a fun series. But I'm hoping the Cubs dominate both these games.
Yeah,
And when I think about the Yankees as well, I almost forgot to touch on them. Uh, that might be a long series. I think that might be a long series. It'd be cool to see, some of the boys get reunited with Riz. I
mhm.
think that's what I'm looking forward to the most when it comes to that, and his impact on this amazing organization and what he did for the Cubs. It's pretty powerful stuff. But I'll be very surprised if the Cubs take one, but I would love if they take one from the Yankees. But I do expect it to be a little bit of a tougher series for them.
Yeah, no, yeah, with Rizzo and Chapman, it's cool. Like hey, even Glaber. I mean, it's a guy who was in the Cub
Yeah,
system, so it's cool to play. I mean, it's been a while since we played the Yankees. I think it was like 2018 maybe or 2019 at the latest. But yeah, no, it's cool. And I think it'll just be a good series for the Cubs' confidence in general. Yeah, like if you could get one in there, that would be nice. But
yeah,
you're playing, like I said before, with between them and the Dodgers, arguably the best team in baseball. So,
yeah.
I think it's always fun when you play like that because as a team that's not headed to the playoffs, it's almost like a playoff series for you. So, yeah, well, it'll be fun to see. Hopefully, they can get the two games in Baltimore, and then in see what they can do against the top talent in the league. All right, so that will do it for the Chicago side of things. Looking around the league, a lot of stuff happened this weekend. I mean, the Phillies fired Joe Girardi. Jordan Alvarez got an extension with the Astros of 115 million. So I mean, for in nowadays in baseball with a guy like that, I mean for me that's like 50 cents. When you look at those two stories, when it comes to the Phillies in particularly, do you think they made the right decision with Joe Girardi?
Yeah. I think there was definitely some issues going on within certain relationships between the players and Joe Girardi himself. I know Bryce Harper didn't directly say Girardi's name, but he's felt that certain players should be playing more than what they have been playing. Um, and obviously, seeing what's been going on this season with this team on the field, not too surprising. Not too surprising. I would have loved to see them maybe give them a little bit more to work with in terms of the pitching. But this is kind of what I expected this year. I knew this team was going to be very offensively heavy. And the last few games have actually been very fun to watch, in my opinion. But I'm not too surprised. I think the Jordan deal was, you know, like you said, 50 cents, and uh, we'll see what happens. I don't think this team is going to be competing this season unless they try to put a few more key pieces around them. But it's pretty much gone the way that I expected it to go. We're a very offensive heavy team, and defensively and pitching wise, nowhere to be found. So there's always has to be one person you have to point the finger at. So they had to point it at Joe Girardi, and if there's some sort of issues within the clubhouse, and for Harper to not take shots at him, people keep on saying that he's taking shots at Joe Girardi. I don't think it's taking shots is more of just like a critique. So if for him to be speaking out the way he did, that says a lot. That there's probably a lot more that went on behind the scenes that we don't know about. So I think it was a good idea. Get a fresh new face in there, and still a long season ahead. They could turn it around.
With guys like Bryce Harper, it kind of reminds me of like LeBron, where like it's like their team, right? So like whenever
Yeah,
you like whenever um whether you think like a player should yeah, like you said, like call out or whatever, like if that's the right word to use, but like critique their manager.
yeah,
If anyone can do it, I think it's Harper, just because like how long he's played and that how long he's gonna be there, and
yeah,
he's like the cornerstone of that team. So, yeah, no, I think it says a lot of about that team and where they're at. But yeah, no, it's disappointing, man. I mean, they got their lineup is super exciting to watch, and but it's just that defense is honestly I can't find another adjective to use besides comical. Like literally, like it's actually
yeah,
like funny to watch. Like if you're
yeah,
a Phillies fan, I'm sorry, but if you're like a fan from any other fan base, it's unbelievable. Like it's like yeah, but yeah, with the Jordan deal, I think it was cool to see the Astros sign. Have like one of their guys lock him up. Just because like when you look at that lineup, Bregman really hasn't been himself the last few years compared to like what he was when he was an MVP candidate. Um, and I'm not sure his contract status, but I think when you look at that lineup, their best player is Jordan. So
yeah, yeah,
they did a good job signing him. To that deal. It's
hmm
fairly cheap. So he's paid, and they got him for a long time. So it's
yeah,
good on
yeah.
them.
Good for him. Good for
Uh,
him as well.
for sure. And the Angels, speaking to another
Whew.
team that's been falling apart, they're on an 11-game losing streak, entering a Tuesday. And yeah, I mean, we talked about it. We want them to go to the playoffs. We're cheering for them. I think anybody who loves baseball is cheering for Mike Trout to be in the playoffs, Otani to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still early, and they're so close to that. And this is one thing, because of the new playoff format, is like
Mhm.
I think any other season you'd be like, man, this team is cooked. Like they could be easily like done. You could put a fork in them, but really this year with the new playoff system, like they're I think a game out or a couple games out of the third wild card spot. So
Yeah.
they could still sneak in there, which is good. And we want them to succeed. So
Yeah. Yeah.
hopefully they'll be able to pull themselves together. But from your perspective, what has gone wrong with the Angels in this 11-game losing streak?
Oh gosh, everything. You see Mike Trout slumping pretty
Yeah.
heavily. I don't think Anthony Rendon has really lived up to his contract at all to this point. But I think having somewhat of a more solid season. Um, Shohei Ohtani, as much as we all love him, I do think that he can be better offensively. I know, I know we all love Shohei so much, and we don't ever want to get on him too much. Um, but I think for sure he could be a little bit better offensively. I think it's just a matter of players are pitching to him different this year. Pitchers are they learned a lot last year, especially with this two-way beast that we have in Shohei Ohtani. So it's just a lot of their key guys are not what they need them to be. I think Syndergaard has done everything he could to this point. Um, I do believe that this is a team that can turn it around. And I really, really, really like Joe Madden on that team. Maybe it's a little bit biased because of obvious for very obvious reasons. Um, but you know, I like you said with the new playoff format, anything can happen. They're not out of it completely yet, but this is very, very, very ugly. Um, but I do believe that with the experience of this squad, they are more than capable of kind of just putting it back together. I really like Jordan Walsh. I feel like he's not talked about a lot. I know he's critiqued a lot in certain aspects, but there's so many aspects, so many players on this team who I could look at and just think, uh, this guy could be the one that gives this team the spark, or this guy as well. So I wouldn't count them out just yet, but this is very, very ugly to see and unfortunate to watch because I want to see Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani on the same team, but winning. That's what I want to see, like winning consistently. So that's what I love to see.
And I think too, like when you look at Otani, like, as you were saying, like it's tough to get on him, like or to like you know criticize him. I think, but you know
Yeah.
what? I think like when you look at his numbers this year, I think it just like proves or just shows how once in a lifetime that season last year was. And for me,
Hmm.
hopefully, it's not like for us. Hopefully, we get to see another season like that from him. He's still young, so we could, But
Yeah.
that I mean, one of the best seasons ever, like in history. Like it's obviously oversaid, but I mean, it's because
Yeah.
it's true. I mean, it's just like I don't think people realize how amazing that was.
Yeah. You look
Uh,
back on it and you appreciate it. You
yeah, no,
appreciate it even
yeah,
more.
yeah, no. I mean, it was one of those things where like you like every time you turned it on, Otani was hitting a bomb. It's like
Yeah.
Trout. We know what we're getting with Trout, right? We've seen it for
Yes.
like 10 years. But when you see Otani and like he's out there pitching 7 shutout innings, but then hitting 2 home runs too, it's just it's literally one of the craziest things in all of
Yeah.
sports. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, hopefully he can find it and he's able to um find his swing a little better and just put up the numbers we know he could put up. So yeah, so for the Angels, tough stretch, but hopefully they'll be able to wake up as well and get back to their winning ways. Still think that like we said before, hopefully they're able to get into the playoffs, but yeah, it looks like the Astros are going to take a stranglehold in that division and run
Yeah.
away with it. So we'll
Yeah.
see. Um from on the NL side of things, I know the Mets, we were talking about the NL East a little bit with the Phillies, but the Mets are also just dominating. And that in just in general, it's they're looking you know making me look goofy because I didn't think that win a division. Um, But hey, still early. You can't count your chickens before they hatch. But they're looking really good, and they're still continuing to win despite the little Metsy situations that are happening right now. And as we talked about before the show, is you said it too. Like as long as they're able to play the way they know how to play and with the players they got. And stay out of the drama spotlight, then they'll be fine. And they're getting into a little bit of that drama because of Max Scherzer getting bit by his dog on his non-throwing hand, and Francisco Lindor slamming a door on his hand. So yeah, so very Metsy things. But again, they're still winning though,
Yeah,
which is not something that not doesn't happen every year when it comes to the Mets. Like sometimes when stuff like this happens, the wheels fall off and they start losing.
yeah.
But yeah, like and like I said, you said that before that as long as they keep their head out of the drama, then they'll be fine. What are your thoughts on the Mets up to this point? When it comes to their winning ways, but also on those latest situations with Scherzer and Lindor.
Yeah, yeah. I think these are two. I think very very minor things and kind of like unfortunate things as well, like freak accident stuff that took place. Um, so I'm okay with that. I would rather. This is all bad. I would hope that small things like this happen to these players instead of like the other drama that takes place in this organization that they're known for. Um, so I think compared to a lot of issues, I think this is pretty minor. So they have that going for them. So good for them. But this is a team that is so well put together, and they have all come together. And I really don't believe that Peter Lyons is being talked about. I really don't. I What a year for him. His 16 bombs, driven in 54 RBIs. Uh, we gotta appreciate this a little bit more. Batting 282. I think he's been so solid for them. I think Mark Canada has also surprised them a bit with a 302 average. He's driven in 20, but just the way he's able to work counts. And Jeff McNeil, another example of another player who's been so solid for them. Um, and I love how these have been the core pieces of this Mets team for a good amount of time now. This core group of guys have seen a lot of winning, a lot of losing. Now they have some other pieces around them. Eduardo Escobar, who I know, people are going to look at his average and, say one thing. I think he's been great. I think he's been great for them. I think he's a perfect piece for this team. They're built so great. They're built different. Luis Guillorme, I think, is another player who isn't appreciated enough. He has that role playing position, but he is such a productive hitter, and he can easily be playing every single day. But it looks like he's very comfortable in that role position. So I would keep him right where he is. I'm not taking him out of his routine. I'm not going to play him every day. I'm not going to play him in the same spot. You like being a role player. You like moving around. That's what we're going to do, because that is where you strive, and that is helping us win more. So many great things to point out with this New York Mets team. And I even talk about the pitching. Uh, I think Cookie Carrasco hasn't had an incredible year, but he has been solid a lot. Chris Bassett, who's also put in a good amount of innings, he's gotten hit kind of hard. But the good thing about these pitchers that they eat up innings. They're able to go deep into games. So I think that is something that is great for them. Starting pitching isn't like crazy for them, but a lot of their bullpen guys have been solid. A lot of guys who aren't throwing as many innings, like David Peterson, he's been very solid for them. I love what I'm seeing. Taiwan Walker, another example, who's pitched great this year. So many different things I can point out with this team. And the Mets really have it clicking on all cylinders. Super happy for them. I want them to keep it going.
No, yeah, and the thing is, when you talk about the starting rotation, is that they're doing this without Degrom and they're doing this without
Yeah,
Scherzer because
yeah,
Scherzer and obviously Degrom's been out for most of the season. I think all of it now at this point.
yeah,
But Scherzer, um, he's been out with the oblique injury, which didn't the bite didn't affect him in any way. But yeah, the fact that they're doing that without these guys is impressive. Still winning. So
yeah,
just imagine if Degrom was playing. So yeah. So and that kind of leads me into my next question for you is like when it comes to the best teams in baseball right now, you're looking at got teams like the Mets, the Dodgers, the Yankees, right? In your opinion, what's more likely to happen, a Dodgers Yankees series or a Mets Yankees World Series, and what do you want to see?
Hmm. Realistically, I could probably see the Yankees and Dodgers just because the Dodgers are a better experienced team in the playoffs. I actually don't think the Dodgers are better than the Mets. Not at this point, not on this date, on this time. I do not think they're better. That can change in about a month or two. But I do think the Dodgers are the more experienced team with the talent to back it up. What what I want to see? I want to see New York, New York. I want to. I Listen. New York is such an amazing sports city, sports state, sports town. It is. If we get Mets and Dodgers, it's going up. It's going up in New York, and I want to see it. So that's what I am hoping for. I don't think it's very likely because I don't know how this Mets team particularly is going to finish. But they do have some great pieces in terms of Scherzer, and hopefully DeGrom is back sooner rather than later, and hopefully the boys have fun so they can stay hot. But if that's the case, you know, I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be incredible watching the Mets and the Yankees in the World Series. And if we do see that, I don't know. I think it's going to be the coolest thing in the world. We got some of the craziest fans in New York, so I'd love to see Mets and Yankees, but I do think Yankees Dodgers are more realistic.
No, yeah, that just thinking about that excuse me, just thinking about that Subway Series in 2000.
Yeah,
Not knowing anything about it. I mean, I was like, you know, in like first grade or kindergarten. But I can only imagine what that would be like in general, let alone now, man. Just thinking about now in the social media age, just how crazy that would be with Mets and Yankees fans banter. So it, I think I do. I think yeah. I think when they really look at it, it would be cooler to see a Mets Yankees just because it's like New York. It's the capital of the world when it comes to like crazy stuff like that. Yeah, it's like of course, but yeah, the Dodgers I think is like you said more likely. And even that would be cool as hell, man. I mean, to see, obviously the Dodgers, we all know they came from Brooklyn, so like it to have
yeah,
that kind of, I guess, a reunion like that in the World Series would be pretty cool.
yeah,
West Coast versus East Coast,
yeah, yeah,
and then it's just like just thinking about it, like, not that we haven't seen this before, but just like it'd be cool to see, one day it'd be, 25 degrees in New York, and then go to LA to have a 81-degree game.
yeah,
So it's gonna be cool, and regardless, I think two of those teams are gonna make it to the World Series.
yeah.
It's just a matter of
Absolutely.
who. And yeah, like you said with the Mets, you got to see how they finish because that's just how the Mets are, and that's how they
Hmm.
always been. You got
Yeah,
to chill out with them until the till their season comes to a close.
yeah.
Uh, well, speaking of coming to a close, that should do it for this episode of the At Bat Baseball podcast. Our 10th episode. Here's to many more. For Saul Rodriguez, Miles Porter. I hope everyone has a great week and take care, everyone.